Hey everyone, today we are in Munich, Germany, at the Siemens AI Lab, which is a shockingly difficult place to get invited to, but we're super happy to be here. We are continuing our series on Industrial Edge, and today we're going to focus on Mendix on Edge. Now, you guys may have seen Mendix earlier last year when it got released, but we're going to do a bit of a deep dive. So if you guys are interested in knowing what Mendix on Edge is, how we can go take a Mendix kind of IT application, port it over into our OT and are quite literally edge devices. If you're interested to know what's a good fit, what's not a good fit, how they're using artificial intelligence, and much more, stick around. So Tomas, longtime viewers of the channel will have watched the Mendix on Edge launch while we were at SPS. We had many conversations at SPS, excited to continue that in. But if you guys are new to Mendix or Mendix on Edge, Mendix has been around for a number of years. Siemens purchased them about 5 years ago, and they were very much kind of IT applications focused. There are more than 200,000 of these applications running all day, every day worldwide. It has recently been a transition to Mendix on Edge, and the concept is we can take these low-code tools and go deliver them onto Industrial Edge, yes?
Correct.
Perfect. Can you tell our listeners maybe a little bit more about that journey and why low-code, why Mendix on Edge married with Industrial Edge?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, Mendix is a low-code tool that helps to bring the business people and IT people together, right? And the idea behind it is that it should ease software development and it should accelerate software development, eventually saving you money and time. Yeah, and we saw these, properties. They would also be applicable into operational technology, into industry focus, where there's IT and OT people you want to bring together instead of IT and business people. But we see the same concepts, and we think it makes sense to also help them out with low-code tools in industry.
Two of the most interesting things that I like about low-code applications are, one, it helps professionals who do lots of development take over a large percentage of that development by going and being able to grab easily replicated pieces. But two, also this marketplace, having either blocks or segments that people can use by themselves or as part of other projects. Can you tell us a little bit more about marketplace, please?
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. So I think personally, the marketplace is the heart of a low-code environment. Yeah, because the idea of low-code is that you do not have to develop each and every component yourself. Yeah, but you can rely on the community or various other providers to give you these predefined components. Yeah, and if we go to the Mendix marketplace here, we can see that there's already, depending on the content, you can see different widgets, services, or even complete starter applications. Yeah, so you don't need to start this application by yourself from scratch, but you can just redevelop another one. And for example, we have a bunch of connectors or other components, which are called building blocks in the low-code environment, that you can use. For example, if you type in AWS, you can see that there's a bunch of AWS services you can connect to. And of course, besides various other IT systems, you can always go to Industrial Edge and see what we are providing here. For example, the plugin, as you've seen in another video, or of course, application examples. And that is really the heart, because it helps you to develop applications quicker and more robust.
These public marketplaces are really useful in order to help get people started. But one of the things I love about these environments is it helps, like private marketplaces, help either enterprises internally if they're developing, it helps systems integrators, it helps solutions partners build easily replicated code that they can use themselves internally or give to their customers. And I know Mendix has one of those. Can you take us through that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So Mendix does provide also a private marketplace for your tenant. That means you as a company can select a certain amount of these building blocks, or even create them for yourself. Let's think about a UI type of style guide you want to provide for your company or for a certain customer, and then you can have them, and your developers can only or can choose to select these building blocks out of this pre-selected amount of components.
Absolutely.
And maybe another cool feature is that besides the marketplace here, of course you can always go to the marketplace, which is mendix.com/marketplace, but you can also access the marketplace directly within Studio Pro. So the developer never really has to leave the development environment. You can really just see the marketplace components also in Studio Pro and directly drag and drop them into the code. But it's really cool, yeah. I mean, in the end, nobody wants to start from scratch. And all these components you can then make available.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's low-code. That's really the idea behind low-code, I think. Hey Dave, check this out.
Yep.
So this is how we would start with app development. You go into your Mendix Studio Pro, you would start a new application.
Okay.
That would redirect you to also the starter applications at the marketplace. You can of course start a completely new application, but we want to take an already predefined starter template. Let's take this event application. So what we do is we want to download this and get it started. We can give it a name. Let's call it app for Dave. And then we say create application.
Okay.
And now it would start the would create the application for us.
Yep.
And then we can choose to download it and edit it in Mendix Studio Pro.
Perfect.
Now we downloaded the application we just talked about. And basically every application consists out of three things. A data model, application logic, so basically what happens with the data, and of course a UI.
Okay.
So let's go through the three components that we have. Let's start with the domain model, it's the easiest. What you see here is a UML diagram. For example, you have things, and things have of course certain properties and they have a relation to other things, which is basically just a database behind it. The second part is the workflow. The workflow is transforming that data. And what we have here is we have, on the right side, we have a bunch of predefined objects, and we can drag and drop these objects in and edit the code, and of course transform also more. And the last one, as I already said, is a UI. And of course, this is obviously a login field now. You have a username and a password. Maybe we don't like one of these things. We can just choose, for example, to pull in another login file, password, and then we would have a second one. Of course, it already indicates me there's two of the same entity now.
Absolutely.
And of course, what happens in the background is it would also start creating a property for the password, an entity that you have to fill with a certain integer or whatever.
What does a typical Mendix on Edge application look like?
That's a perfect question. And frankly speaking, Mendix is a toolbox that allows you to develop all kinds of applications. So there is no one specific application, but basically what you want to build with Mendix is an application that fits into the industrial edge ecosystem, but at the same time is an application that's not yet available. So you really want to put your domain know-how into an application that doesn't exist yet.
Absolutely.
So if we take a look how it fits into an entire process. So what you want to do is as we already said, you develop an application with Mendix Studio Pro. You use our plugin to push the application into the industrial edge management system. Once it's there, you download the applications all to an edge device. But what happens inside of the edge device? The edge device is of course connected to your automation equipment. What happens in the edge device is that all things in the edge device is software, right? So you have value-adding applications, you have applications taking care of the data layer, and you have applications that are connectors to the underlying automation equipment. Think about a S7 connector, for example. If we take a closer look at this, and I think this is the real value of Mendix on Edge, it's this microservice architecture, right? Everything is a reusable component, everything again you can plug and play, and it works perfectly with the existing industrial edge software. For example, the data bus, for example, the 𝐈𝐝𝐴 essentials. So if we say this is an edge device and we already have a PLC connector and it connects to some whatever Siemens PLC, gets the data out, pushes it onto the data bus, it then, because this is an MQTT broker, we want to capture some of the information, for example, in the 𝐈𝐴𝐴 essentials, because we want to store it and analyze it over time, the time series data. And let's say we put our application that we have just made, we put it on the edge device, and then it analyzes the data from 𝐈𝐴𝐴.
Absolutely. No, interesting. I like that. And again, longtime listeners will have seen us do a live build on Manufacturing Hub, including Industrial Information Hub, and have seen it at SPS. And if you guys want to know more, stick around. We will have the third episode of this talking all about Industrial Information Hub.
Exactly. And because you said, what is a typical Mendix application? I think as we said, there's no one typical application, but it should be an application that works in the ecosystem of other available apps.
Interesting. Okay. So talking about that, what are some good examples of good fits that that maybe you've seen built or are talking about building? And then I also want to talk about some things that might not be good fits. But what are some good fits for the Mendix on Edge application and the ecosystem?
So our customers build all sorts of apps, as I said, but take predictive maintenance or predictive quality of a product. So what you want to do is you want to measure the process of a production and see if your process is always within a certain threshold.
Okay.
If it exceeds the threshold, you might want to take a look at the final product. This would be a very good very good example.
Yes.
Because these applications, depending on what you produce, might not exist for your industry.
Absolutely.
So you want to build that specifically for whatever kind of products you are producing. Yeah.
Yes.
That could be one. If you think about if this application should, for example, run in the cloud, and it's obviously not a Mendix on Edge app.
Yes.
Think about supply chain management. This is not something that should run within an enclosed edge device.
Absolutely.
Right? This would be something you want to have on a cloud level because you might want to connect to different SCM systems.
Absolutely. Perfect. And then what, I guess, have you guys had conversations with people that you've said, hey, this might not be the best Mendix on Edge application? Are those generally like good cloud-based applications, go to Mendix and not Mendix on Edge? What is maybe not the best fit for Mendix on Edge?
Excessive resources. Of course, we are always contained with resources on an edge device, and you cannot scale it up flexibly or dynamically like you can in the cloud. If it requires a steady internet connection all the time, right? Edge computing is about not being connected to the internet at all times, all the time. And of course, if it's including a large amount of users having to connect to it, named users having to connect to it on a repeatedly basis.
Absolutely. Okay, that makes sense. And then what about artificial intelligence? Is there people pulling in artificial intelligence into Mendix on Edge? What does that look like?
That's great. First of all, Mendix and Mendix on Industrial Edge has various expressions of artificial intelligence. Basically, we separate two things. We have AI-assisted development in Mendix that help you create better applications or help you create applications smarter. But at the same time, we want to have AI within the application, so building smarter apps.
Okay.
And now it's also a good point when you said, would it be a Mendix on Edge app or not? It depends on the use case, and especially with AI coming up, it's usually a hybrid use case, meaning that you have the training of a model not happening on the edge device. Obviously, you want to, for example, in machine vision, you want to take pictures which are in your production. You want to train the algorithm somewhere else to also make use of large foundational models, and then deploy only the algorithm back to execute it on Industrial Edge. That would be a perfect example.
Perfect. Thank you. So Thomas, we've talked a bunch about Mendix on Edge, and before this on episode 1, we talked a little bit about third-party apps in the Industrial Edge ecosystem. Here we're on Mendix on Edge. We've touched on the marketplace. We've touched on a bunch of other parts of Mendix on Edge, but one of the really interesting things to me is how it plays with Industrial Information Hub and how it can go pull all the information from the OT plant floor and go give it to other data scientists and data engineers. What's your experience? How are people enjoying that?
I think, first of all, a lot, and I think this is really the cornerstone. We cannot bring low code onto Industrial Edge if we make it hard for the developers using data from the edge. I think the promise we have to make is that we take care of the connectivity part towards OT, and IAH is the essential part to make this data available for all kinds of applications. It should ease app development, it should ease data usage, because this is, in the end, always the cornerstone of everything we do. We need to leverage industrial data in our apps.
People are interested in using Mendix on Edge and Industrial Information Hub. How can they do that?
Very easy. We have an Industrial Information Hub connector available in the Mendix marketplace, And we also do have example applications, and by the way, it's also part of our learning path to really understand how you can utilize data using IIH inside of your Mendix applications.
If you guys would like to know more about Mendix on Edge, we will have the information and Thomas's and everyone's contact information below. If you guys are in the comments, we'll do our very best to get to you in the comments. You should, one, absolutely check it out, and two, stick around. Next episode, we are doing a deep dive and talking all about Industrial Information Hub.
Perfect.
Perfect.